All right, greetings everyone. I'm excited for the show today. I'd like to welcome Martin McGregor, CEO and co-founder of Devicie. Welcome to the show, Martin.
Thank you, Ben. Great to be here.
Yeah, great to have you. So let's kick this off. Tell us a little bit about your SaaS background.
Well, I would say that I'm not strong in, except for that I'm a consumer typically, and have been a consumer. My kind of feeling with it is whenever there's been some sort of technology, particularly something that I can consume, where it's not really critical for the business, or it's something that I just want to get done nice and easy, I'm always looking for SaaS.
Yeah, definitely. So would you say you're an early adopter on the consumer side?
100. I'm a big believer. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, which is not surprising, with SaaS founders, living in the SaaS space. So tell us so you're a co-founder at Devicie. So tell us a little bit about what Devicie does.
So we do device management as a service. IT would be our consumer. That's our buyer. What we do for them is we allow them to use our platform to manage their devices at scale and apply the configurations that they need to with automation. So everything from the setup of the device, wherever it is in the world, it works completely over the internet, to applying the security that they need to defend against cyber attacks and gain the compliance that organizations typically need in this day and age.
Okay, yeah, pretty interesting. And so is this like any devices, tablets, laptops, mobile phones?
Yeah, that's exactly right. It's devices. We focus on employee devices in particular, or student devices, whatever, but end user devices in particular. We're not really interested in dealing with servers or typically devices that don't move. That's kind of the easy thing. We're dealing with a considerable gap that is out there in the market that relates specifically to employee devices or end user devices, and the challenges that are in that domain.
Okay, and then really interesting. Then so how do you charge? Is this like a fixed subscription per month? Does it scale based on devices? Tell us a little bit about your revenue stream and pricing.
Sure. So the way that it works is it's a per user per month thing. For our customers, they are hundreds or thousands of end users. They would pay for each user per month, and it's a one cost for the entire organization. There's no project setup fees or anything like that. That's required for the organization to consume us. It's simply just a month by month price.
Okay. So you said no setup fees, so no professional services to get them up and running. Now, do you need to kind of have some configuration, or are they able to just kind of self-serve and just get themselves up and running without your help?
There's an onboarding process, that we do go through. Most of that's just helping them navigate decisions that they need to make. We use automation throughout that whole entire process, and eventually we will have a self-service function. But for the most part, it's to help them navigate some of the technology decisions that they have to make to get to the outcomes that we're trying to help them get to. So there's a little bit of hand-holding, but it's not like what is typical in this domain, which is very long projects, building the infrastructure and making that available to the organization so that they can then deploy to end users. Because of our extensive use of automation, that entire project that's typical for end user device management is automated. So that only takes, it really just takes minutes. And so rather it's really about them making the decisions that they need to for their organization, and then us supporting them through that process.
Okay, yeah, makes a lot of sense. And so you're co-founder. Do you have one other co-founders, multiple co-founders at Devicie?
We've got two co-founders.
Okay, so two other co-founders. And then tell us, your background. We have co-founders who are technical, co-founders who are on sales or the business side. What your background? Where does it kind of lie as far as your education and skill set?
Well, we're all technical. I think going into this business, we've realized just how technical we are. We're very, all three of us met delivering technology projects to, commercial technology. So we're all very deep in that domain. There's a few areas that we've all worked together where there's some overlap. And that really is in cybersecurity, in device management, particularly for enterprises, larger organizations. However, there is quite a bit of diversity in our skill set regardless. So we're a complementary team and do have different skills, but we're certainly none of us had a strong commercial background or a strong sales background or marketing background. So those are areas where we've really had to skill up fast, and also, bring in people that did have expertise and were deep in those regards.
Okay. And then what year did you found Devicie then?
It's only we've only been going a couple of years now, 2 years. It was born out of a cybersecurity consultancy that the three founders run. So we first introduced it to a customer of that business. We help companies deal with their cybercrime. We help them build defenses. And this is really a technology that helps our customers do that for their end user devices. So dealing with things like ransomware and phishing use cases, that sort of thing. So that's where it came out of. And yeah, about 2 years ago.
Okay, so 2020, around 2020, founded.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Right at was really right at the beginning of COVID.
Yeah. I think I've talked to other founders same way, or they launched a new product right at the start of the pandemic. So now, interesting. I hear this a lot, where you started, say, with an agency service consulting business, and then a product was born out of that. Is that kind of what happened here, where you said, working with the co-founders, cybersecurity consulting, and saw an opportunity to productize that service?
Yeah, exactly. So we are technology builders. So that's what we do. We do build technology. So when we did our consultancy, the intention was for us to not solve that with bodies or become a body shop, to rather build technology to solve our customers' problems. And this is an example of that. This is the first one that we really tackled. And the reason for it is because, from a cybersecurity perspective, this is kind of the biggest area of risk for organizations. This is where still the majority of cyber attacks occur on end user devices. So it's certainly the first thing that we intended. It wasn't something that we struggled over. It was an obvious for us.
Obvious one, yeah. And so founded 2020, and then where's your company located?
Well, I don't know if we're located anywhere particularly. We're a remote first business. Okay. So we have employees kind of all over the place, and we have customers all over the place as well. So in multiple countries, and we've really built out our systems and processes to be a global company. So we try to think of ourselves as global, although we are more heavily concentrated in Australia, our team for sure.
Okay, all right. So remote first, but Australia-based, employees all over the place. And tell us about your team size, employees plus full-time contractors. How big is your team?
At the moment, it's actually, I don't know. I think it's 18. But
18, okay.
Yeah, we've started 3 people this week. So and it's happening quite quickly. We're trying to find people. So we were 12 the week before last.
Okay.
So it's
all right.
Reasonably quickly, but yeah.
Okay, so upper teens, around 18, sounds good. And then anything you want to share, AR size, revenue range, anything you want to share there to get a feel for the scale of your company?
Sure, we're in the millions of ARR, and we're hoping to double that again, or more than double that again, very soon. And that's kind of been how things have been for us. Yeah, it's been quite good financial growth for us.
Okay, great. So millions of ARR, looking at kind of doubling in size, and then tell us. Yeah. really want to talk like, who you're targeting your customers to. So tell us a little bit about your go-to-market motion. Is it traditional outbound sales? Is it inbound mix? Tell us a little bit about how you land customers.
Well, it's been a big learning curve. It's been one of the areas where we've really had to skill up. One of the things that we didn't appreciate the challenge of was doing something new. So for the people that buy our software, it's a very, very different scenario to the entire market. So there's we're doing a lot of things with automation that is typically done with projects, and there was a lot of concern from customers early on, that our claims were thin, or we couldn't do what we claimed to. That we really replaced a 9 to 18 month long project that a bunch of technical people would deliver, and it's hard to imagine that you could just replace that in a couple of hours. But that's what we've done, and it took a little bit of time for customers to see that was a real thing. And then I think when they saw other brands come on board, it helped. But it was quite difficult at first to do direct sales. Our first sales came from people that we knew. We then did hire a sales director who helped us bring some maturity to our sales process there. So what we were doing, when we met new or potential customers, we were taking them through ROI, sort of help them understand how much it was costing them to do device management now, how much those gaps in device management was costing the organization, and then how we could sort of help them. That also helped them understand the scope of our product and exactly what we dealt with. So we were able to gain some direct customers that way. We're also on some podcasts, things like that. People heard us, and we had some leads that came that way. But I think typically, if I look back on the last 2 years, our marketing was a massive failure. And when we talk to customers or even potential customers, they would essentially tell us that. We would go to meetings and they would say things like, if it wasn't for this guy that vouched for you, after I looked at your website, there's no way I'd be talking to you guys right now. So we're getting things like that happening, and we're having to overcome that. And I think one of the ways that we overcame that was by really leaning onto partners. So we found partners that understood the problem that we were solving, that had a whole bunch of customers. These are typically MSPs and MSSPs that had the gaps that we were solving. And then they became advocates of us to their customers, which sort of helps build a bit more trust. So we've very much been a partner, particularly in recent months, a partner driven business. And we've essentially scrapped all of our marketing, started again, and building that up in the hope that we can start getting some marketing qualified leads. But it's been predominantly through partners or through people that have heard of us through other people, other customers, or heard our team talk on podcasts, for example.
Okay. So really interesting. So partner channel, relying on that partner channel, drive leads and deals. And then do you still have, like, your director of sales, do you still, calling prospects, trying to prospect there, so that outbound motion, or is it mainly the partner channel? It's a bit of both, but it's really the partner channel is probably 80% now of our effort, and dealing with the opportunities that come from our partners. Okay. And you mentioned your ICP, or you're targeting the persona of the internal IT department. And so are you working with larger enterprises, mid-market, small? Like, how big are your customers that you're going after? So average customer, it would be in the hundreds to thousands of end users. And I say our average deal size would be between 150,000 and 350,000. Okay. However, that's for those customers, they're saving quite a significant amount. So we have customers that we save to about $2.5 million a year. So it's quite small change in this domain.
organizations are used to spending a lot of money for device management in this space. And that's meant that they are typically larger organizations. So organizations that need to be compliant in particular. So traditionally, I've built this technology for finance companies, banks, mines, anywhere with a lot of money. So it has been a little bit easier for us to sell to those organizations because they have experience with the projects and the costs of trying to do this, and it's an easy sell because our price is so low. However, we do have smaller customers, including customers that would have 20, 30 employees, and again, the cost is very, very low for them per user per month. They're down, in the hundreds or maybe $1,000 a month kind of price. Very, very, very low for what for device management. But for those organizations, a lot of the time, this is the first time they've tried to manage devices. They're not aware of the costs. They're not aware of how challenging it is, and so it can be a little bit more of an education piece. So where we're at our business now, we're kind of focusing on slightly larger businesses as we grow and build our capacity to onboard more, just because the sales process isn't as heavy for us, believe it or not. Enterprises take probably just as long for us to get a deal as a small company. That's why we focused on larger businesses. And then our persona really is IT in those instances. So our customers typically have their own IT people internally, and that's who we deal with. We work together with them to help them achieve the kind of things that they are struggling to achieve, because the software that's available now on the market requires so much people and so many bodies to make it work and keep it running. So they will essentially use Devicie to make the decisions that they need to make around devices, do the configurations and the customizations that they need for devices. But our platform automates those processes so that someone doesn't have to log on every month to do patching, for example. Patching just happens automatically. They just decide how they want it to patch, what schedule, so that it's safe, and doesn't impact their organization, but still meets all the requirements they need. So that IT persona really is the person that we're dealing with, that wants to have a really great outcome for their end users in terms of user experience and security as well.
And yeah, really interesting. That makes a lot of sense. And then, targeting maybe, mid-market enterprise for the most part, like, are you seeing, are these couple month sales cycles, 6 months, 12 months? What's an average sales cycle that you see for these deals?
I wish I could say we had an average sales cycle. It's not short. It's a low one, because I think partly because of how much risk we deal with for an organization, and we also, we're managing the employee devices of every staff member or every student or whatever. So it's very high touch, and the potential for something to go wrong. I think customers feel this is an important domain, so it has to be done well. So it has taken a little bit of time to go through and build trust with customers that haven't known us, and doing things like POCs and whatever. But still, I would say that probably takes about 6 months.
Okay.
Surprisingly, we do get much quicker ones though. So even we've had government agency in particular in Australia, we're known for taking a very long time to go through procurement in government. But because they really felt the pain that we solve, every now and then we do find a customer that just will do anything they can to make it happen really, really quickly, so they can get this problem addressed.
Yeah, makes sense. And so you just recently raised the Series A, and so tell us how much capital have you raised to date now?
So that we raised just over 10 million US in that round, and then we'd raised about about 750,000 US prior to that.
In a seed round. Yep.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay, so around, say, US roughly $11 million raised to date. And so it's always interesting. So Series A, that's a nice raise, good number. And what did you see? Like, what compelled you? Did you see any triggers, milestones that said, hey, we're ready to take this to the next step to accelerate growth? What did you see in your business that you're ready to take on more capital?
Well, I think when we started, we knew that we'd have to take on capital. It was from the beginning, partly because this problem that we solve has a very wide scope. So when you're dealing with employee devices, there are so many areas that you need to address. The applications people use, the files and resources, being able to share files, access, company resources, email, the customizations that you need for personalization, to all of the security controls that are required. It's a very wide scope that we have to manage. So we knew that we'd need a significant engineering team to build the software that deals with that, effectively. And we also knew that we were doing something new, and that we had belief that it would take off. Prior to Devicie, there wasn't a SaaS product that you could consume that would do device management for you. There are SaaS device management platforms out there, but an IT team would have to be built to consume that, build that infrastructure, make it available to the organization, and then manage it. So the difference between our SaaS model and others is, you need a team of 3 to 5 people for most other solutions, where you don't really need anyone full-time on Devicie. And that's really because we deal with a lot more scope than the other SaaS solutions. We deal with we obviously have the platform, but then we also have all of the processes and automations that help you deal with that project lifecycle. So it's quite a bigger thing. And we wanted to set the standard for that globally, and we also wanted to be people's number one choice, and to be able to do that, we knew that we'd have to be able to market significantly. We'd have to be able to support customers all over the world, and we'd have to make sure our infrastructure was available all over the world. So as well as, of course, having to move very, very fast like everybody does these days. So it was always our intention to raise and find a partner that we could work with to help us, achieve what we needed to do. So yeah, it wasn't necessarily that there was a trigger. It was we knew we needed to move fast and grow quickly in terms of our systems capability and capacity, just because of how big the opportunity is. There's so many organizations that every organization has just about has devices for their staff. It's almost universal these days. So the TAM's very, very big.
Yeah,
and we want to make sure that we seize as much of that as possible.
And then so deploying the capital, then it sounds like to engineering, because you have such a wide scope, and then it sounds like also just marketing efforts, customer support. Is that where you're putting this money to use then?
100%.
Yep. Okay. All right. And so Series A around $10 million, a decent sum of money. Any fundraising lessons or tips and tricks that you learned with these raises that you could share with other founders?
Yeah, absolutely. So we met with a lot of VCs. I spent a lot of time talking with VCs, going back to when we very first started our business. And what in my experience, if I could go back now and start that process over again, I would have probably been a lot more selective with who I gave my time to. So the VCs that had invested in companies very, very similar to us, or understood infrastructure very well and had a lot of infrastructure businesses that they invested in, it was so much easier to deal with them, because they understood our competitors and what was different about us. Dealing with essentially anybody else was very laborsome, because there was a big learning curve for them to understand, first of all, the domain that we're in. It's a very technical domain. And then, what was unique about us. So having gone through that, I would try to avoid VCs that, you know, aren't very experienced in our domain. Yeah. I think in those scenarios, it's like it's just a constant struggle of trying to help them understand. And yeah, I just don't, who has time for that?
Yeah, so limited time, right? And that's a common theme of, yeah, investors who believe in your space and also, right, know your space, you know, so like you said, you're not educating them, spending all that time. So it sounds like, yeah, if you could do it over VCs or investors who understand your space, which makes a lot of sense, makes your job a little bit easier. So as we wrap up here, really appreciate the time, Martin. So what's next for Devicie? What's up and coming that's exciting for the company?
Well, you touched on it earlier. We're putting more and more of the process that we take our customers through onto our front end. So that's going to help our partners and you know, direct customers come to our website, you know, at their own leisure and their own time, walk through the processes and the decisions that they need to make to get device management and their organization really singing. And that's going to do a few things. It's going to allow customers to have a look at Devicie, try us, get a sense of the scope that we manage without having to, you know, talk to a sales team or talk to anyone at all. And then also give us a little bit more scale in terms of being able to onboard customers, because, you know, we're not going to have as many conversations. So that's where a lot of our focus has been. One of the cool things about that that I'm really excited about is that that's going to give us access to smaller companies. And, you know, because I mentioned earlier, I was working for a long time building these solutions for private companies, but usually larger ones. That cost is so prohibitive to small companies that, you know, you think about it, if you're a 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 employees, but your business wants to deal with really large enterprises, and you need the compliance and you need the security and the maturity to be able to engage with that organization on your end user devices. How do you achieve that? It's just a nightmare for those companies. Will be an option where they can come to the website, onboard themselves, and get to a, you know, exceptional place of maturity very quickly, very easily, and we're really excited about that.
Yeah, that sounds like a great goal. So really appreciate your time today, sharing your story. If listeners want to learn more about your company, where can they find you online?
Please go to devicie.com and forgive our marketing foibles, like I was referring to before. We have a new site coming with all new branding and all sorts of things that sound way less arrogant and much more focused on our buyer persona, you know, our humble IT friends.
Yeah. So, and that's Devicie. So DEVICIE.com.
You got it.
Correct. Okay. And look forward to that new landing page revamped, you know, so don't judge Martin too hardly on his pages right now. So Martin, really appreciate again your time, sharing your story. Sounds like you've got a great thing going. So again, you know, thanks for your time and sharing your experiences.
It was great to be here with you, Ben. Thanks so much for having me.
All right. Thanks, Martin. Appreciate it.